And we are back. I am usually here, Sinio Sin, as the past 50, what is it, 54 episodes now? We're on 55. And yeah, I'm thankful, grateful, appreciative that I'm here as I travel through outer space. And I am joined, per usual, Al Fluent. How are you doing this evening?
Who, me?
No, Al Fluent. Al
Oh,
Fluent, can you
good.
hear me? Al Fluent, you
Yeah,
coming
good.
in?
I can
Is
hear. I
do
can
you
hear
have
you.
it? Oh, okay. I was just making sure. I said, "How you doing?" You just gave a thumbs up. I was like, "Wait." For the audio only listeners, Al Fluent through the thumbs up, but didn't say much else. So thumbs up it is.
Yeah, that's a video only exclusive nonverbal response. So make sure you check out the YouTube channel sometime and get those views up. Subscribe to the Lyrical Opposition YouTube channel. Um, I guess we have to say that every once in a while. It
Word.
took us 50 plus episodes that ask for a subscribe or two. Hit the notification bell, hit the subscribe button. Uh, but also we're here every week just about, and I'm grateful really. I'm in a space where if I wake up, I'm good because I'm not in control of that. My alarm doesn't, is not as much as our bodies shut down while we sleep. It's a miracle that we wake up at all. And so if I wake up, it allows everything else to happen. And so I'm always grateful. That's my favorite thing to do is wake up. And so waking up is my jam. And I woke up today. So again, it's the best day of my life. And I'm happy to be here. We have a great guest with us. Um,
Right on.
before we get to our guest, Casey, I want to know how Cinio's doing. Because he usually has a black background, but now he's got a white background, and I want to know how he's handling it.
I'm not handling it well at all. I have so much anxiety and so much expectations, anticipations, all this unbridled energy right now. I'm missing my teeth. It's so much going on right now that I'm just in a whole different universe. But I made sure to come correct. Made sure that I was here at least suited and booted for the most part. Minus the teeth. But I can't. I can only see the good right now. That's what I'm doing. I'm making those choices to see the good, to really zone in on the parts of gratitude and thankfulness on what I can appreciate. Now, that doesn't mean I'm complacent. That doesn't mean I'm necessarily content by no means. But I am definitely appreciative of as you often say, right? Every day is the best day, right? That today is the best day, and really owning that and accepting that and embracing that. So yeah, the sun's shining and I'm able to see it. So I'm gonna give my thanks and gratitude and appreciation for that. So that's where I'm at with it. But without further ado,
Nice.
KC,
Speaking
how
of
are you doing
speaking
this
of
evening?
sunshine, we got
KC in the
Casey here.
sunshine,
With,
KC.
Word.
with without the band, but we got Casey here.
We got KC
Right
in the
on.
sunshine, just no
Right.
band. It's
Bring
all
it.
good.
Go ahead. I've never heard that before, and it's all good. Casey, shake, shake, shake your booty. That's what I got as a
Hey,
kid growing up. So it's all good. So, but thanks, guys. I appreciate the invite.
it's all good.
Yes. What
So
brings you
I
onto
mean,
our,
how
our
are you
podcast
doing? Where are
today?
you at in this nebulous interstellar planet that we are on right now?
Well, I appreciate the invite, and two, to just sit at the table with y'all and just to be present, and to my friend Christian as well for connecting me to your table. And so I am a guest in your house, and I appreciate the chance to just be. If we had food in front of us, to break bread and just to share in the conversation. So I'm down in sunny La La Land. I'm back, the other half of California down south. Um, just enjoying life and just finished cooking dinner. I cooked a little dinner for my wife and my two older sons who were visiting us. And actually, I just finished when Christian said, "Yo," I had just finished cooking dinner, so the timing was perfect. And so, but that's where I'm at in my world right now. So, but no, yeah. How about this? I do. I do some work in LA with a agency called North Valley Caring Services. And back at the start of COVID, North Valley Caring Services was one of the many agencies that really met the needs of families and seniors and Latino families, and you name it, a mix of families in the San Fernando Valley. And at its peak, we were serving 900 families each and every week, Thursdays and Fridays, at a drive-through food pantry. And we continue to do that. And so some of my work is there in the community in the San Fernando Valley. And again, I'm somebody who, I'm a person of faith, grew up in Hollywood, California. And my story, and whenever I'll follow you guys, but my story is an interesting story. And whenever you want me to share, or let me know.
Much appreciated. Much appreciated. And thank you for the ability to give thanks, praise to those that, we often don't have on the screen, because, they oftentimes are the ones that help this machine move. Speaking of, Christian, who's not to be confused with Cross, those are two different people, but both of those people are important. And, our producer, Abe, as well, it's important to think about all of the different connections and relationships that we have. And I think that, you highlighting that and showing that, and giving us the without me having to, push and pull into the area of where you're coming from, I am very interested to know how, you're in Southern California, you're from Southern California. So what is it that I guess maintains your perspective or maintains your energy to stay in that area, right? Oftentimes we get people on here and they have to navigate and travel or move, migrate wherever. And, was that the case for you? Did you have to leave to come back? Or was it a thing where it was like, you know what, I'm going to see what happens where I'm from?
No, I appreciate that. Being in midlife, I grew up in Hollywood in the 80s, 70s and 80s. So pre-gentrification, everything. Hollywood was, as a young person, I was one of the skaters in the city of Hollywood, and we used to go around and steal skateboard ramps and things and take them to our park, and people would take our ramps and skateboard things. And I mean, we were Hollywood kids. Hollywood Boulevard was my front yard. We used to skateboard up and down the boulevard. We'd sneak into the movie theaters. I remember seeing Chainsaw Massacre, and that shows you my age at midlife, sneaking in the back of the theater with my friends, playing football in the park. I remember breaking my collarbone playing in one of the local neighborhood parks. I remember getting jumped by one of the neighborhood kids down in the street from the public park where I used to play t-ball and baseball. We used to swim in the neighborhood pool. Literally from the day I was born until about probably the early 80s, everything was outside. We ate outside. We ate at the little greasy spoon roach trucks back now. The roach trucks are hip. They're all the fancy food trucks. But back then, you can get a really, in Hollywood, you could get a really good burrito for like $1. I mean, again, just some wonderful. Hollywood was home to me, and really some of my own story, my narrative, spending time in the arcades back when gaming was just a quarter in a slot machine called Asteroids or Centipede or a pinball machine. We hung out at Western and Hollywood Boulevard, where the addicts and the drunks and the prostitutes were. I lived in, when my family split up and my mom left our family, I lived with my white alcoholic father, my stepdad. Remember living in a little run-down motel, seeing the addicts and the pimps and the prostitutes all back. People know Hollywood very differently than I knew. I mean, I knew it in a different way than others know it now. So some of my brokenness, my own pain, everything I learned about what it means to, be part of a family of chemically dependent people. My mother was a Wiccan, grew up as a Wiccan. She was a Wiccan witch. She used to tell me, you follow Jesus and let me do my own stuff with my Wiccan stuff. I'm like, all right, Mom, it's all you. My stepdad, who was an alcoholic, was a printer. by trade. He was from Cedar Rapids, Iowa. And back in the late 60s, the print industry was beginning to just skyrocket. And he heard LA. If you move to LA, you can get a print job. And really, these printing machines aren't around anymore. But the old printing presses, I don't even know the names. My stepdad, I call him my dad. My dad would come home every single afternoon covered in black ink, with just ink everywhere in his nails. And I remember one image of walking into our bathroom, and my dad, his name is Bob. go figure, Bob. He was in the bathtub, literally taking a bath with Comet, because there was so much ink from the printing machines. And so that image just kind of imprinted in my head. I mean, he was the typical white guy, alcoholic father. I had two half brothers who were white. My mom was Dutch. And what Christian mentioned in regards to my story, for 52 years, I thought I was Mexican American. And back late December, my youngest son, who's 19, my oldest son is 26. I have a middle son who's 24. My youngest son at 19 said, "Dad, I'm playing around with Ancestry.com. I'm like, "Whatever. Okay, cool." He says, "Go get your birth certificate." I go get my birth certificate. And he's like, "How do you spell your father's last name?" My biological father, he said, "Well, his name is Miguel Manuel Mascarenas." And he said, "How do you spell Mascarenas?" And I said, "Well, I'm Masacarenas. And he's like, "Read your birth certificate." I said, "Sure." I read it and said Macaronas, Macaranas. And I'm like, "What the hell?" I'm thinking Mascarenas. I always thought it was Mascarenas. It's Macarenas. He's Miguel Manuel Macarenas. I Google his name, and all these Filipino men showed up, just up and down, like thinking, okay, and answered a lot of questions, filled in a lot of gaps. But then I went ahead and sent away for that DNA test, and sure enough, it came back that I'm about 24% Filipino. I'm about 21% indigenous Mexican, Indian, a whole mixture of things. My mom was because she was Dutch, she was white. I'm 25% English. I'm Scottish. I'm this, I'm that. I'm like the freaking United Nations. All my friends were laughing at me going, you're obviously very, and again, my story had always been, I'm Mexican American. I'm proud of that. But where I invited, I shared some with Christian that really, it was really actually kind of a joy to learn another part of my story and even growing up as a kid and being someone who's been a recipient of scholarships because I'm Latino, someone's joked with me and said, "Are you going to have to give all that money back?" And I'm thinking, no, I'm still a person of color. I am. It doesn't change who I am. It just adds another chapter to my book. One day I'll write. So, but and I have that again. I have a brother my half brother died of a crystal meth overdose growing up in the 90s. My dad died of alcoholism. My stepdad, my mom died in a car accident. God bless her. She was really, but the funny thing, and then I'll zip it so you guys could continue whatever you want to talk about. But it really, if it weren't for Bob, my stepdad, he worked when he was working as a printer in the 70s. He worked for this old guy, and I feel like I could say this freely, an old white guy of the local church. And Mr. Young was an elder of this local church that I grew up at. And he asked my dad, he said, "Hey, Bob, do you guys have kids?" No, he said, "Do you want to come to church?" My dad said, "No, I'm good." He said, "Well, do you have kids?" And he said, "Sure. Yeah, I have kids." So I remember my skinny, smelly, stinky old dad walking us to church, meeting Mr. Young. And I remember Mr. Young saying, it was probably in third grade, he said, "Follow the yellow line." And the yellow line led to the kids' Sunday school classes. And really from that day on, that was kind of the beginning of my own journey, my own faith journey. And even though my dad, my stepdad, my white dad, my alcoholic drunk father, all of those things rolled up in one, even though he was who he was, he was divinely placed in my life to be part of that one moment. If it weren't for him walking me to church through the streets of Hollywood, I don't think I'd be where I'm at today as a person of faith, as a husband, as a father, and even I graduated high school late. I went on to college at 30, graduated from seminary at 33. I'm not an academic. I'm not smart by any means, but because of my own story and how people of faith were part of that story, I am what I am. What you see is what you get. And I'm still learning. I've learned a lot from my friend Christian. I'm still adapting and pivoting, and Lord knows COVID probably threw all of us into a different way of doing things online, in our space, in our atmosphere, in that place. So I'll pause because I love talking just like you guys. So.
No, it's much appreciated. I mean, this is your platform, your stage. We're just here to help facilitate.
Oh my goodness.
You know.
Well, I'm blessed. Goodness, thank you.
Yeah, no, it's for you to be, shown, to be seen, to be heard, to encapsulate everything that you are and share with the people. We're just here to, see how we can help usher or facilitate that for happening. But you have more than enough capacity to lead in whatever direction you want to go in. But it does look like Affluent got something coming. So Affluent, what's going on?
First, Casey, I want to thank you for stepping away from your family at dinner time to be here with us. And we feel like this is your show as much as it is ours. We feel like everyone listening, or who will listen one day, is a lyrical one, right? Like we all have stories, and some of us are still learning how to voice and reflect on those stories. And we all have stories to tell, and all of us are still writing our stories. And so, we all, we appreciate, anything that you share with us and bring to this table as, as a communion. We walk through this life and this journey, together. I always say that, the more we see each other as family, the more we treat each other that way. And we get to learn how to do that by listening to each other's stories. I think for me, something that touched me was the fact of culture in LA, right, for natives is different than what's in entertainment, right? It's almost like a untold story, right? You have to kind of like seek and search for the culture and the content and the substance of LA, beyond what's on a screen, but whether it's a TV or a silver screen or a stage, right? You kind of have to like have those conversations. You have to really sit down with people, and you have to know someone that knows someone that knows someone sometimes, to talk to someone who's native, who grew up, in it, and 70s, 80s, 90s, right? And has seen LA change, because it has changed, right? It's not all Hollywood, right? It's not all East LA, it's not all West LA, right? It's not all Compton, it's not all Long Beach, it's not all Inglewood, right? It's not all Slauson, it's not all right? It's not just Inland Empire, right? It's so many different things, right, that people growing up there have experienced, where people who are traveling through, right, it's a fleeting thing. And people who see it on a screen, right, it's a fleeting thing. That's given an image because it's digestible, but that's not really how everybody has experienced LA. And so like to hear from you, just like to the 80s, I was outside, right, like before, like, and we know like what happens, like the riots, things that happen, and right, like what brought people back home, right, what brought people inside, what brought children inside, right, youth inside, to be here as a survivor, right, of of a tough time, tough for the city, tough for the country, but also for people of color, right, as we have survived, right. That's something that's in our story as well, that we get to tell it, is a story. There's stories of survival, and so like just that that timestamp that like I was outside, right? Like, and that's the thing, is like, because like when you grow up in the inner city, like you either outside or you're not outside, right? That's like that's the slang.
I was in a 7-Eleven playing arcade games. I was drinking Slurpees. I was outside,
Right, exactly. And then you're right, you know that, and you know that time where it's like, I don't even be outside, right? It's like I am not outside, right? I am at home. I'm doing schoolwork, I'm doing work, I'm in with my family, like whatever it is. You won't see me out there. Like I don't know what happened no more. Right? I'm not out there no more. I don't know. Right? You hear about it, right, from friends and family and stuff like that, but like I don't witness any as much anymore. And it's cool to hear that correlation growing up in San Francisco in the Bay Area, and then like being able to relate to that switch, that change, and like remembering summers growing up, and it's a I really like that dialogue between you and your mother, where
Mhm.
she says, right, this is my handle on the world, right, and my
Yeah.
scope and my worldview,
Yeah.
right, and I won't press against yours,
That's right.
um, and because parents pick and choose, you know um, sometimes how they want to teach us, right, and it's interesting. I don't like to call the aggressive nature of old fashioned ways of doing things as
Sure.
I don't like to call them old fashioned because I feel like they weren't right before. It's just it's the understanding we had, and they're not right now. They're right. They're not old fashioned. They're just kind of unfair, and they're brutish to a degree. But like we had to learn, right, growing up, where to find our voice. You know, um, but a lot of those experiences um, allow us to empathize with each other,
Right.
right? They allow us to be siblings to each other, to strangers, right? They allow us to see each other as family, that we understand that tough times come, and we don't stop those tough times, but we can, right, we can choose who we trust, right, and we can choose how we respond. And like you, I choose to trust God and trust his son. I choose to trust Christ and in my walk, but that also determines how I respond to things, right? It
Right.
determines my posture and how I navigate through the world. Um, and so, like, I'm grateful, right, to have you here, right, for you to share, right, that as much as you've gained, right, and the family that you have with you, right, that the family that you have, raised, right. There's also, right, we acknowledge the loss, right, as a part
Right.
of, right, the journey, right, and the loss that you have. I've lost a lot of folks in my life as well, but I know some people who have never lost a relative, right, because they didn't have a lot of family in their life, um, and it's a blessing to like to know what loss is, so that we can also again be there for those who experience that transition.
That's right.
um so I think this is something like unique to this episode and our conversation actually, and so I appreciate you for sharing with us today. Yeah, thank you.
I appreciate that. No, and
Seeing
I
what you
think I
got.
think oh no, and I think that question to how come we haven't left, I think was your question. It wasn't that accurate.
Yeah,
How come we hung in there? It's interesting because in my work as someone, not just as a person of faith, but as a clergy person, and being someone who grew up in LA, grew up in Hollywood, no matter how much Hollywood has changed or LA has changed and all the stuff that's happened from when I was younger to even today, what's going to happen tomorrow, it's still home to me. Where I did my studies in another part of the country in Jersey. I love being on the East Coast, but every single day I missed home. And so we're willing to put up with high rents. We're willing to put up with traffic and crowds and you name it. But there's nothing like being with 52,000 people in Dodger Stadium, all walks of life, brown, blue, green, you name it. There's nothing like that, and it's home. It just again, it's I don't there's nothing I can't explain it. I know what you're going to put up. The God, it's all good. And you guys are doing great this year. Actually, I'm
it's
I'm
it's a
impressed.
fun time.
It is.
it's a fun time, and the management had to work for this one.
That's
They
right.
had to work to put this
Great.
together, and as
And
fans, right, as real fans. So I love diehard Dodger fans.
that's right. I
Diehard
am,
Dodger
man.
fans are my enemies, right? But they are my comrades at the same time.
Now you can
Uh,
follow me on on Rev Dodger Blue on Twitter. Rev Dodger Blue, if you want to check that out. That's just a fun thing. Yeah, just
nice,
do just I'm just because it's
nice.
I'm just showing my it's my parish. I get to I'll delete you, block you, do
That's
whatever
right.
where it's my parish.
That's
We
right.
tweet love and grace about Doyer fans. So, but no, but again,
I respect that.
we couldn't leave. We couldn't leave. My wife was a Valley girl. She grew up in the '80s as a Valley girl.
Yeah,
It's home. So,
swag. Yeah.
what do
Yeah.
y'all? What else you want to know? Or go ahead.
No,
Yeah, I would love to hear you,
no,
man.
I think that's there's something important about that, right? The picture is appropriately painted and the understanding about home, about what is home, how do you define home? Home is different for so many people, right? There's so many different perspectives. We all have our own vision of what home is.
That's
And
right.
when you say that, right, I left, I missed it every day. And then I think about who because we're now talking about choice, right? You're talking about the choices, what you choose to believe in, the principles, the practices, the faith. Those are choices you actively have to wake up and make, right?
Right.
You choose who you're with every day, right? You choose the person that you love. These are choices that either commit yourself or maybe you're always changing your mind. But in what you're showing me is that you are very firm in, okay, you know what, this is what I'm holding on to, and this is what I'm going with, right? I'm not, I may leave, but I know where it's bringing me back to.
That's right.
I'm willing to see what's on the other side to then discover, yeah, I already knew where I was supposed to be the whole time, right? I just wanted to see what did the world have to offer me in whatever it was communicating, right? Or how was it advertising itself, right?
Right on.
Oftentimes we think of the East Coast and all these different capacities. Oftentimes it's the romanticized version of this metropolitan area known as New York City, and people, they want to see for themselves, right? And I can it resonates with me because I remember when I went to visit and I was like, when I got there and I spent some time, I was like, I get it.
Yeah.
But I went back home, right? It wasn't lost on me what's romanticized about it or what people may find so interesting or attractive. But again, I know where my home is. I know what that means to me and the importance of being a part of a community and supporting my community, and how do I show up for my community. And what was it for you? Like, what was that point in time, or what were the relationships like that you realized I wanted to show up in a different way for my community, right? Where I wanted to show up for people, because you started off by saying the organization you work for,
Yeah.
but beyond the organization you work for, it's who you are at the root, and where did that come from? Where did that manifest from?
I appreciate that. No, thank you for pushing that. That's good. Um, I think I do what I do now today because a local community church, I had mothers, fathers, surrogate brothers, sisters, uncles, granddads, you name it. It was a surrogate family for me there were marriages. I thought, if I was ever to get married one day, I'd want to be like that marriage. I'd want to be that kind of person to my spouse. If I wanted to, I grew up watching preachers in my church and figured, man, if I ever preach one day, I want to speak like that person. I remember, also learning the reality that just because people show up in a pew on a Sunday morning doesn't mean they're perfect. Doesn't mean that, there is that facade that the other 6 days a week are brokenness and difficulty. And just because they look like a picture perfect family, here I came from the alcoholic inner city, Hollywood, you name it, family. And here for a moment, and it was almost like, when we watch TV as kids, man, I wish my family was like that. I mean, going to the church, and I think of anything, the blessing that Yahweh has given me, the blessing that God has given to me, that I do what I do because someone took the time for the moment in their space to care for me, to be there for me when no one else was there. I don't know how many, my youth pastor growing up as a kid, I always joke that this person probably spent thousands of dollars on taking me out for meals, growing up all through junior high and high school. But every time I broke bread, and every time I spent time with him, telling my story, letting him into my pain, I think those people, those different people, I think even if I were to say them by name, Beth, who was there when I had lung surgery in high school because my parents couldn't afford to take care of me, and I had to have the surgery. The church paid for it, and she let me stay in her house to recover when I was a 10th grade kid. I think about, people Clark, an old guy from the church, who said when I was 19, hey, I have an extra room in my house in Glendale. You need to get your education. I'll let you live here for free. You go to Glendale College and I'll help pay for it. I remember people encouraging me to keep going and not to give up. People like, other people in my life, people named Todd, who encouraged me to finally complete my high school diploma at 19. Again, those different people in my lives. My friend Marvin Wadlow. Marvin has been one of my best friends, 62 years old, African-American, lovely. Just my bud. We've been together through thick and thin. And I remember calling him from New Jersey saying, I can't believe I moved my family out to Jersey for graduate school. I'm failing. And I remember him basically saying, yeah, I don't care, you're staying, get back to work. And if it weren't for those different people who played those roles in my life, I wouldn't be here. And people, no doubt. I've been married 30 years by the grace of God. That by all means, no doubt, people thought our marriage was not going to last. But because of those the people that you mentioned, those different people in my lives who've been cheerleaders and encouragers, and when I need to be thumped up the side of the head, I'm still in there. And by all means, because of my own growing up in the city, I shouldn't be married right now for 30 years. I shouldn't be the kind of, we should have been divorced in year 2 or 3 or 4. My kids should be, I shouldn't have kids right now, because of where but because of people and how they were placed divinely in my life, I am that person. And I can tell that story. I came from nothing, and I'm more than just, I'm something. I matter, and I'm a minion. I'm a speck. And I think now, and I'll finish that last part of that last bit, not bit, but you know what I mean. Now I'm found my place as a clergy person in my region of churches where I serve. And again, learning more about my own ethnicity now that I'm not just Mexican American and Filipino. I'm a canvas that God threw up on the wall and said, I'm going to paint you, and this is what you're going to come. This is what you look like to me. And I stood up in my region of churches last year, and there was a group where I'm a clergy person, and they were trying to figure out, how do we respond during COVID, but also how do we respond to all the things that were already around that no one ever wanted to talk about, now have been magnified because, again, we think George Floyd, we think, and the names go on. And they were thinking, before we start our large regional meeting, we should say something. And I'm sitting around this table, and I'll be the one. And so I wrote a prayer, stood up, I read it before the region of the clergy and people from all the different churches. And I just said it out loud. I said, if you want to be part of a group of people who are going to do some work to begin trying to figure out how to get people to come to the table to talk about racism, to talk about advancing leaders of color, to talking about that it's more, big whoop, you went to seminary. It's more than just going to seminary, that even you don't have to go to seminary to be a leader. You don't have to go to have a college degree to be a leader, a faith leader, a clergy person. You can be, just because I went to seminary and I get to call you pastor now, I can still call you pastor without a degree, without those 3 letters. And so I was standing up before the region of churches saying, if you want to be at this table, this group, a year later, last night, and really when you're talking about, you asked that question, what are those different people in my life that gave to me, I'm giving now back to them because of what they did for me by the grace of Yahweh. We stood up last night after a year. We presented a document where we said, this is where we begin. If you want to advance leaders of color, this is where it starts. this is where the church has to begin talking. And it's scary and it's frightening, but before the church can do anything else, we have to start with admitting and confessing and bringing it and saying it out loud before we can move to that next step of advancing people who look like us, people that, you know what I mean? Again, I'm passionate about that. I'm still learning so much of the stuff, but I do what I do now, even last night at this regional meeting a year later, because of people who spent time with me. And, the church is going to look different in the future. And I'm just honored that, I don't know if honored is the right word, for in LA, the fastest growing faith communities are going to be multi-ethnic, multi-generational communities. And our leaders who've been faithful, they're going to be different leaders. They're going to be brown leaders. They're going to be Black leaders. They're going to be our Asian sisters and brothers who are leading those faith communities, helping proclaim the greater story, the good news of that story, of God's story in the world. And how, again, I'll stop preaching. My pastory thing gets all,
No,
but, yeah,
it's good. Like
so I'll stop.
I think we understand like where that passion comes from, right? Right, and it comes again, right, from that community, right, like that you're carrying the heart of people who gave their heart to you, right? It's like, who you and then you carry the heart of the people who are receiving yours, right? It's an exchange that happens right within our community when you invest in a community, right? The community invests in you, right? And
Amen.
And right, you create this exchange where, right, what happens to me happens to all of us, right? What happens to all of us happens to me, right? What happens to one of us happens to any of us, right? And we try to, right, navigate through that, right, regardless of our relationship with God, as community members, as people who choose to be a part of a community, right? We say, well, if you're going to ride, I'm going to ride. And our bandwidths may be different, right? Our capacities may be different and our roles may be different, but we have to take an honest look at ourselves and be honest with each other and say, this is what I can do, right? At this level, right? This is what you can do at this level. And right, we will bring other people in and we will find this balance, and we will hold each other accountable and say, if this is what you say you can do, right? This is what we're going to hold you accountable to do this, right? And I appreciate so much that you say, right, I'll be the one to speak, because like, if you say it, where it's coming from, right?
Sorry.
If someone else says it, right, you don't know necessarily where it's coming from, but at the same time, certain people in the room, you say, if they say something, where it's not coming from, right? And it's not coming from the community, and it won't, and their attention won't be on, right, these are the things that are important for, right, raising the community up, and it's beyond your scope, not by any fault of yours, but just by your experience. Is not their experience.
That's
right. And sometimes, right, people have to be, right, bumped over their head with that news, right, that we are not ever bringing the good news past where it was supposed to show up anyway.
Right on.
Right. It's like, God's here, right? God's there, right? It's like somebody has planted some seed, somebody has watered something already, right? If you got to bring some more water, right, it may not be the first time anybody heard something. Like, as a personal trainer, right, my thing is always, I can't guarantee, right, that somebody has any kind of experience, right, with physical fitness, right, with stress, with physical stress, right? I can't guarantee. I have to meet them where they are, right, and ask them what their experience is, whether they like about it, what they didn't like about it, where is the injustice, right, in their wellness, right? Like, what's missing, right? You show up to me, right, acknowledging that some change needs to happen, right? Well, it's communities all around us, right, that know, right, we know that change needs to happen, right? But we have to create those spaces for them to show up and say, right, we're looking for change. Because if they don't know the spaces are there, right, they'll stay home, right? Or they'll go try to make change outside, right? But we know if you set up the space, right, with the intention for them to have change and create change and be a part of their change, right? And walk alongside them on their empowerment, right? Not like giving them power, right? You let them know that they got it, right? And they give them a chance to explore it.
That's right.
So I like don't worry about preaching here. We all long-winded here. Like you just wind us up, and it's all good. 15 minutes will go by like that,
Oh yeah.
right?
I appreciate that, man. I
I mean,
appreciate
you
that.
you said it right. It's not the school that makes the pastor, right? It's not like it go back to even deeper beyond that is the choice again, right? You could put in the work to say that's what you want to do, but
That's right.
are you choosing to show up and be present in that today, right? Are you choosing to honor what it is that you may have invested in to reveal itself, right? Because yeah,
Right.
raising your hand is so important in a time when you can read the room sometimes and see nobody want to raise their hand. They know what's necessary, right?
Right.
They know what needs to happen, but who's going to be the one to cut through the tension,
That's
right? And
right.
it's when your hand pierces that veil that then it all becomes revealed that oh we're hiding behind a curtain, right? We're sitting here hiding behind this curtain, and we're no longer willing to we want to acknowledge, right? We need to cut through the curtain, but who gonna help us, right? And then
That's right.
you're just compelled, right? Just as much as you say it here with us on the podcast, how much everything has importance or has a place, and the energy is provoked to push through you, and you're sharing in a grand way, right? Where it's like you want to censor yourself, but it's like we're not here to censor nothing, right? Let it be what it's going to be.
That's
And
right.
that's the reality of where we're at right now as a people, right? Let it be what it's going to be, right? Let's
That's right.
accept what it is so we can have the conversations and be uncomfortable so we can embrace each other, right? Because ultimately that's what we're trying to do. It's not that
Right.
we're not trying to be disruptive in destruction, right? We're
That's right.
trying to be
That's right.
disruptive in planting seeds, right?
That's right.
Where they say there's a patch of land, there's potential for growth, right?
That's right.
Oftentimes people don't want to let that happen. Okay, let's have a conversation about it and let's go through the discovery process of why, right? And I think that's a lot of what you're touching on is you see the changes that need to happen. You're going through the changes yourself. You're
Right.
reflecting and finding deeper how your identity is shifting just based off of having access to information, right? Just from the it's this navigation of the community around you, right? It's like sometimes it's you taking care of them, sometimes they take care of you, and then all of a sudden your child is telling you, "Wait, what's your birth certificate say?" Right? And next thing
That's
you know,
right.
you're now traveling down a whole nother pathway of revelation and understanding of self that you didn't even have an expectation for, right?
Right.
And yet that only impacts and magnifies everything that you already knew about yourself prior. It doesn't change you in the sense of, oh, I now have to show up differently. No, if anything, it magnifies,
That's
oh,
right.
so I get to show up in these other ways. I get to broaden the perspective. I get to create more colors in the spectrum for other people to resonate in the frequency that I'm vibrating on, right? And I think that's so it's important for people to see, to hear, because we can get lost at times on the travel process, right? Of I'm taken
Hmm.
care of, or I'm being taken care of, and then someone introduces something to me, and I might not be ready to embrace it. I might not be able to grasp it, right? And you're showing this level of poise to say, no, this is what I've been through, right? Whether you're referring to your father, Bob, and giving us the context of who he is as a person,
Right.
but him making that one pivotal instance to say, we're gonna make this walk, right? We're gonna make this walk through Hollywood,
That's
right?
right.
That then catapults you down this trajectory of who you are now, right? To
I appreciate
then
that.
being on the other end of the spectrum where something as simple as your own child being able to show you a piece of yourself you never knew existed, right? It's
Right.
this grand scheme of this kind of secular just universe just working in manifestation on itself of this infinite process of creation, whether it's through the infinite process of thought, the triggers of emotion, the feelings, the understanding, or it's just going through the experiences and seeing what happens. And to me, what it highlights is how much of you being in the position that you're in, right? You being a pastor now, you being a father now, going from the kid that was playing outside, going from the kid that had that freedom and that ability to, in some regards be impacted. How much has that kind of starting point, has it shaped you into how you reached others, right? How you are thinking of taking care of or being present for other people or being there for your family? How much of that freedom or the just kind of all those unique experience to just see the dynamics in your own family, to be like, there's so much difference in the people that I care about or love. Now I have to show up in this world of differences and be there to love them.
No, I think, and I think at some point in the day, clergy, well, anyone in a field where you care and love people, at some point in the day, you have to be able to separate yourself from those experiences, those conversations. When I did hospital chaplaincy during COVID, and being one of the chaplains who would show up and bless and pray over someone who passed away from COVID, that's another part of my story for another day. When I bury somebody, when I marry somebody, when I baptize somebody, those stories are so important. Being present, 100% ready, and if anything, that thing of being outside and real and available, unplugging your phone, letting someone know, looking up at them in the eyeballs instead of looking down, affirming that whatever they're saying to you really matters. That's some of that's been lost, but some of that is coming around in different ways. And to admit that and to acknowledge that maybe we're not in person, maybe we're not, we're still looking at each other eye in the eye, eyeball to eyeball, that this is still okay. And I think if anything, I don't know if I'm answering your question, my friend, but I remember when my oldest son was, when I was working with students when I was younger in the community in the local church, my youngest son, who was about 7 or 8, he would always say, "Daddy," when I got home from the church, the local church where I was a youth pastor, he would say, "Daddy, take your shoes off." And I'm like, oh, okay, I'll take my shoes off. And I would pick them up after school, come home, get their homework done. My wife taught all day. She came home. She was tired. Then I would go back to church and do my youth pastor thing at night. And I remember when I would come home at night, "Daddy, take your shoes off." And I thinking, why does he do that all the time? He always says, "Daddy, take your shoes off." If I took my shoes off, he knew I was going to be home for the day. If I took my shoes off, he knew I was going to be home for the night. And to be able to really have those boundaries, being able to turn that phone off, taking my shoes off to signal now to my kids who are older, and 2 of them don't live with me now, but my youngest, who's still with me, he even said he'll come and take my phone out of my hand and say, "Dad, we're watching TV." Again, just that letting the world know that you're real, and that you don't have answers. When in my work in chaplaincy, I'd walk in and someone would say, "So, you have any answers?" I don't have an answer, but I'm here, and I'm going to be present, and I'm not going to try to fix you, and I'm going to allow shalom and allow the work of Yahweh to come and be there. But again, my presence, letting the world know that I'll be here anytime, any day. But there is a moment I got to be strong enough to say, I got to go home. I got to unplug. So I don't know if that helps, but
That's big.
No, it definitely helps. It definitely helps show how, where you come from has informed you on that level of being present, right?
Yeah.
I think that's kind of, you said it, right? You're always striving for a level of authenticity, right? I think that's a key component of what you're saying, is making sure that you're able to be approached, to make sure that you're available and you're present to the people, so you can receive them in the moment, because we all have our own, everybody got the thing they do. Everybody got the thing that they're into, right? Whether it's avoidance, whether it's, being direct and being in the moment, or whether it's trying to escape it. Everyone got the thing they're trying to do, whether you're working in a hospital or whether you are working, driving a train or a bus. You got the thing that you're doing, right?
Right.
But the level of presence makes the difference, right? Your level of authenticity and being genuine to yourself to show up in what you do, right? Because you've identified it, right? There's the clergy, there's the classification or the certification process. There's all these different things, but who am I and how am I being authentic to me first? So I can be approachable, so I can be reached, so people can see me, right? So my
That's right.
child could feel comfortable enough to tell me, take your shoes off, right?
That's right.
Because there's a nuance that people might not see on the other side of the coin of life, right? Where there may be a father who never takes their shoes off, right? I mean, we could often refer to the song, Papa was a Rolling Stone, right? Which then means Papa ain't never taking his shoes off because he gotta go, right? And that shows up in a multitude of ways in society and life in terms of just how lucky, fortunate, blessed we are to be in certain
That's
positions, in
right.
certain places, to just have someone interrupt us and disrupt us in the way of saying, take your shoes off.
That's
Right.
right.
To see that it's not just saying it in the formality sense, it's also seeing it in a sense of love, right? It's the love language, right? But
Hmm.
that authenticity, right? It spreads itself out. Other people have access to it, and they're able to find their own ways to communicate to you the level of importance that you have to them. And I think that that's such a key component just in just being a part of a community, right? Being present, being authentic, knowing how to show up at a time where people are having their own self-discovery more than ever,
Right.
right? You mentioned having to raise your hand and being true to that message that you had within you to want to share with everyone else,
That's right.
right? To then say, like, I got to be ever present and ever authentic in that presence. So that way we can make the change to be the thing that we need to be for the future generations that want to follow in the faith or
Right on.
follow in what we're saying,
Right.
right? Because it's so beyond just in the moment, right? You're thinking ahead, you're thinking of the past at the same time.
Yeah.
And to me, I'm like, what gives you that perspective? What gives you that level of kind of that infiniteless, like infinite scope, right? To see the past in relation to the present and the future, to be mindful and what does responsibility mean to you, right? How do you have the perspective that you have in seeing the time that you do, but also having that level of responsibility?
Right on. Now that you both are very wise. I've been blessed very much by your words and your affirmation and really you I mean, goodness gracious, you guys are preachers too. I mean, in so many ways, you bring it just as well as anyone else. And so by being who you guys are, I mean, I'm just grateful to be part of this conversation together, our conversation at this table, and
Right. It's
just
ours. Yeah.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. So
Yeah. It's a time space thing, right? It's like
it is
it's not just the right. It's not just the chronological, right? It's the geographical, right? And it's the digital, right? And you know we can't stay here in this time space, right? But we can take this, right, what we learn from here, what we gather from here, and take it to the next moment. Um, and right, this is right now where we are, is right, is the accumulation of those moments, right, where we can
that's
go
right.
back and pull from our experiences and from our loved ones and from our ups and downs, right, and then mix them in this in this trio right here, right, and then spin them back out again, into our relationships, um into our communities. And so yeah, we thank you for being here. Like it
Right.
was
Yeah.
it's the timing, right? It's like the specificity is uncanny sometimes. And I again, why I love waking up, right? Because like all the hours in the day, right, led me here, but it started with that beginning. um and I'm like, I'm really grateful, right, to have you here,
Oh
Casey, because
man.
the way you speak about your world, and right, your intention in the world, right, like is prevalent, right, in your words, right. It's like it's not of timidity or stagnation, right.
Mm.
It's very much, right, an exchange, a give and take thing. um right? And I hear that in your, right, when you first got on, and so you talked about, say, man, like the room I'm in, right? Like, how can I, let me switch things up, right? Like, or that, my being willing to, right, to participate in something your son's doing, with ancestry, right? Because there's a lot of people, right, at a certain time, they're like, I'm not messing with that,
That's right.
right?
That's right.
Right? Like, I don't care, right? I don't, let it be, right? There's some reluctance, right? There's some dismissal or deflection, right? Um, and the way you speak about your home in LA, and then you speak about your community, right? It's like you choose to find home, right, in your communities, right? And you you have been blessed with a sense of belonging, but I think that's something that you seek out, right?
Yeah.
A part that something that you need, right? It's like when we address our needs, right? Sometimes we, right, in a culture, almost like we get torn down for going after what we need, right? Or being in a space of, neediness, right? Where we are in our society and culture today, right? It's like, you shouldn't be in need, right? You shouldn't be able, shouldn't say that I need this or I need that, right? Unless it's something materialistic, right? But you say, I need community, right? Or your son, right? Your oldest son at a young age is able to say, right, Dad, I need this assurance, right? I need the
You're going to be
signal, the sign
present. You're
from
going to
you,
be, yep.
right? He's able to communicate that need, right? And say, okay, let me know what's going on. Communicate to me, right, that you're here, right, and you'll stay here, right? And then the youngest son, right, is able to say, right, be here with me, right? I'm
That's
be
right.
able to communicate that need, right? But they learn that from the way that you pursue community, right, and choose to show up in that community, right? Because not just saying I need it to give to me, right? I need the community to give to also, right? I'm looking
That's
for the
right.
community to give to, right? And right then where you know them by name, right? You know these relationships and experiences
That's
by
right.
name, and the moments, right? In the moments, these pivotal moments where there was only this person able to give in this way and this need for you, right? Or this family, right? Or this couple or whatever, right? These people who like just say, right, here's a need, right? And right, it's just outlined, right? This is right, the intentionality of it, right? Time space, right? It's like only this time and space, right? It's
I'm
exactly
stealing
for
that. That's
you.
so awesome. I'm stealing that. That time. I'm going to borrow that.
I'm still in it too. I'm like,
I
I
love that.
mean, it's funny you say that
I'm
because
preaching on Sunday. I'm going to figure out how to use that. So,
Oh, boom, boom, right. But so look, right, but then like they say, like, so trainers, they say, right, for trainers, they say good trainers, right, borrow, great trainers steal and give credit,
that's right. That's
right?
right.
But it is, but like, but it's this, right, the same thing, right? The time space, right, for your sons, right? That, like, you're here, but be all the way here, right? Share the time and the space, right? Share the whole thing, right? Don't just be in the space, right? Don't just be in the space, right? And not be a part of the moment, right? Don't,
That's right.
right? And then, and where we are right now, we're able to, right, even though our spaces are different, right? We're able to share the time, right?
That's
But it,
right.
it
And
takes that investment. Go ahead.
no, 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 no. I was just going to say what you just said. Even in uncomfortable, difficult conversations, if authenticity was practiced
Man,
and lived out, even my wife would say this to me often when we were young marrieds, just be here. The fact that no matter where
yeah,
we come from, no matter what side, upside, downside, behind, whatever it is, if authenticity, just be
right.
here, take your shoes off, and I will listen to you. I will tell you I agree or don't agree. We will arm wrestle. We might throw mud at each other, but at the end of the day, if I know you're here and present with me and you're listening to me, I will listen to anything you want to tell me. I will say, help me understand. I will ask you questions. but it goes back to authenticity, showing up, taking the damn shoes off, being there. Excuse me for saying damn, but being there and being real. That's the key. I mean, goodness, all this stuff right now, even in and if we had another hour, another episode, whatever it is, I'll finish this last sentence. Even in some of the work many of us clergy are trying to do within the local church, we know many of our churches are saying, but you're calling me racist. But you're telling me I'm racist. You're telling me, just stop for a moment and step back, because we're here.
Yeah,
we're right here. We're listening. Just come and be we want to hear you, but right now you're not being real. You're not showing up. You're not even reading it and paying attention to all these words. You're focusing on one word when really we've been here the whole time. Christian and I had a conversation with. We've been waiting. We've created these tables. We're tired now. You guys all talk over there. You could have your own conversations,
right?
But when you're done, come over here, because it's a big table. Anyway, don't get
no. The people of color and community work are fatigued, like straight up. They're fatigued, left and right, up and down, right, at every thread, right, of their being, right. They are tired, and right, they have to look for like the small movements of the needles, right, the small little things, right, the small wins, right, to hold on to the peace, right, to get through tomorrow, right, to get to the end of the week, right. It's like having like a few meters of clarity, right, can sustain somebody who's passionate about the work, right, for a month, right, because they say, I'm knowing the way, right, and like I got that from my partner, right. She's gonna be juiced right now, but it's good. But it made me think of this phrase that I just made up. It can't be we if it's just me.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
If it's just me here, right, then it can't be we. Like if you're not here with me, then it can't be we. It can't be we here. Right. And those folks that just like want to like sign papers and delegate and sign checks and talk to and go tell somebody what they doing, go tell some other group what they doing, or tell somebody else what the people of color in their group is doing, right? They'll talk about the work that they want to get done without doing what they need to do in the organization to get it done. And it just makes people fatigued. But we see it also in relationships, right? We see it with friends, right? When people take baby steps, right? We see it in relationships, right? In partnerships, right? Where folks, right, are not intentional about the goal, or right where they say where we need to progress, right? Where the progress needs to happen, right? And because right, the culture is right uncomfortable, I'm gonna punch out, right?
That's right.
Uncomfortable, I'm gonna clock out.
And circling back to what we were talking about, just sit at the table. Don't leave the table.
Authenticity. Authenticity.
We could debate all night. We could talk all night if you're just real, and it's.
That was good. It's good. We want to be cognizant of your time, Cineo.
I appreciate. Do you have something? Like what?
Do you want to? Is there something you would like to share? Oh, we got no sound on you.
That's the wizards of technology. Me not being a wizard at all. Casey, I appreciate you taking time out of your evening to be here with us. Understanding that you do have, food that is that you prepared, right, and that you've put in the time, labor, and effort for your family to have. And being mindful of that appreciation of you you came with it. So,
yes, I told you he wanted us. I told you he wanted us
one time. So, it's one of those things where even
this
then
I got important to me, man.
it's it's all important, every
It
bit of
is.
it, right? Because it is what
Right.
fed you to get here, right? It's going to feed you to keep going. And I just wanted to extend my appreciation because you definitely have given me much to think about and practice in terms of we've talked about it now at length, for the at least the past 5 episodes around being present and
Right.
really being even more mindful of how to be present. It almost reminds me of the movie. I think it's
Yeah.
called Arrival. Is that the movie where she goes to try and conversate with the aliens, and then realizes that time is not this linear thing. Time is
Oh,
this
yes.
it's this ever present moment.
Yeah.
Everything
First
is happening
Contact.
at once.
First Contact. That's it.
Is it? I thought it was
Yeah,
what
I think
the
it's First
First
Contact
Contact. Morgan
with
Freeman.
Jodie Foster.
no,
Jodie
yo,
Foster.
Jodie
see, no,
Foster.
no, no, no. I'm talking
Jodie
about the
Foster.
one where it was the circle. She go into the thing, into the monolith, and remember, she ends up getting a message that ends up going back in time to when she was with her daughter who was sick, and then goes into the future when she meets some like dignitary at some. I mean, Hollywood makes movies over and over again, and as you see, that's a full circle. Hollywood just doing things over and over again. But it's the concept of how time is ever present in the moment.
That's right.
Right? The past, the present, the future is all existing right here. And being present and being authentic in that presence. I'm extending this to the people who will listen. I'm extending this to those who have been here with us. Be in those uncomfortable moments.
That's right.
Speak up, right? To let
right.
your voice be heard. This is important. You matter. You are important, and people do care. And it may be uncomfortable for some because they sit in a position of authority, or they sit in a position of what we call power. But it
That's
may
right.
not be real power, right? It's just what we have societally agreed to say, right? I'm gonna pay these school loans because I didn't make the school loans. The loans was there, right? I just
My
so happen
loans
to
are still there
participate
after 20
into this.
years.
Exactly. I just so happen to
That's right.
participate in the system that they exist, right? But that doesn't extend itself to us having
Dang.
connection and having each other, right? That doesn't have to. We don't have to reinforce those standards in our relationships. We don't have to reinforce those practices that's horrible as they are, right? We can start to say we're going to shape the relationships around us in what we truly need, because that's being authentic, right? Being
That's right.
true in the need, right? The
That
need is
preaches.
self, loving yourself, right?
That's right.
And being true in that is the authenticity, right? And how that shows up and how that's present. And I think everything that you've said, that's what I've taken away from it, is
I appreciate
really
that.
being mindful of that presence, really being mindful of that self-love, and that sharing it out, communicating out, and redefining the relationships, because as much as it's essential for the togetherness, it's also essential for those boundaries, right? It's
That's
all
right.
inclusive. And I
That's
think
right.
that, yes, it's us being here sitting at the table, but it's also us making the time to make sure that we eat. So,
That's right.
everyone, feed yourselves, take care of yourselves, replenish your souls, your love, whatever it is that you need, but also share it when you don't have it, right? The relationship is about the give and the take, right? You got to ask for it, and you got to be willing to receive, right? You got to be able to give it, you got to be able to appreciate it. So, all that being said, Casey, thank you for being here with us. I much appreciate it.
Appreciate it, both of you. I feel like I've known you guys for like a long time. You made me feel very welcome, that I could be myself. I could talk to you guys for hours. I mean, you guys, thank you for listening. And I look forward to seeing where you, in that time space thing, where Lyrical is
Yeah.
going to
Is there
end.
Yeah,
Huh?
Casey, is there anything you want to let our listeners, viewers know about projects, or that you are, that are close
Oh,
to your
sure.
heart, or things that you would like people to get involved in, or bring attention to?
Oh man, if you would visit North Valley Caring Services, all you have to do is Google it. North Valley Caring Services in North Valley or in the San Fernando Valley. That is my heart. I sit on the board for North Valley Caring Services. If you could visit their social media, really easy to find on Facebook. They are on Twitter. They are on the World Wide Web, nvcsinc.org, nvcsinc.org. Again, that's a program, a agency close to my heart. They are making so much. They're creating change. They have everything from teaching micro businesses, you name it, for many of the Latino women and men, doing things with kids, affirming their education. And again, really caring for those in need and who are without, the houseless, those who are without food, and creating and giving gifts of hope. Again, North Valley Caring Services. No, thank you for asking that.
Yeah. North Valley Caring Services. That's www.nvcsinc.org. And they're doing work in the Northeast San Fernando Valley area, Los Angeles. And yeah, we want to lift them up and look into, if you're in the LA area, come through, and if you're online, tap in and reach out. Casey, again, we thank you.
Thank you guys.
If it's just Cineo and I talking, like we only get so far, but with you here, we go light years away. So I appreciate that. We go light years further. Thank you.
Bless you both. Bless you, Christian, wherever you are at right now. And I appreciate you. You're making me feel at home. So
thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yep. Come back anytime. We got
anytime.
Hours to spare. Thank you so much.
True.
All right. Peace. Shalom. Peace to you guys.
Selah.
All right. So unlike
Peace.
other episodes where I would play the outro, I'm gonna we just it's just, we could definitely act like we listened to it.
All right, we're gonna say good night. Yeah, Figo Navarro coming through on a Twitch.
Figo.
Loving the conversation. We appreciate you. It's all right on time, right? God bless you, brother. Thanks. Yeah, thanks, Casey, for sharing your story. You can always catch us on Twitch when we're broadcasting. You can still tap in with the Discord, still tap in with the Lyrical Opposition Twitter, and stay up to date. Tap in Lyrical Opposition YouTube. All our episodes are there. Listen to us on Spotify. Check out the podcast. I think it's on Apple Music too. Get into it. It's great conversations. It's great family time. Great lyrical one time. We are creating different things, and we all need that time to kind of talk about what the creation is looking like, because we can't see it from every angle until you tap in with somebody who's looking at it differently. So it's dope. Yeah, Cineo, thanks for being here, brother.
No, thank you for being here as well. Shout out to Figo for checking in and peeping. Episode 55 of the Lyrical Ones podcast. Thank everyone who's gonna listen and everyone who is listening. Like I said, love yourself, take care of yourself. And, I can't sing. Lyrical
One. Lyrical One.